Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Software Engineer K here, and today we've got some pretty interesting stuff to go through. So we're going to be touching a little bit back on the kind of Future Tech Live Metaverse stuff. There's a couple of interesting things that I just want to go through, but specifically I wanted to focus on a bit of an interesting thing going on in the community regarding very cheap gem sales, and just why you need to be wary, how to protect your account as well. And lastly, I did also want to have another recap on the whole Tom Bilyeu thing. So for those who aren't aware, Tom Bilyeu, he is an owner of his own NFT company, but he is very interested in VeVe as well. So just a little bit of an update on that. And lastly, just a quick look at the price of OMI for today. So without further ado, if we just go straight into Twitter now. This image was posted a little while ago when we had the Future Tech Live Metaverse. Now, I described the Metaverse itself as being a bit janky, and Reese kind of came out and he, clarified that the Metaverse itself, Ecomi didn't really have much input in how it was built. They provided the assets, they provided the models of the NFTs, and Future Tech Live kind of did everything else on their own. Now, there is a room where you can kind of see these decapitated animal heads just hanging on the ceiling, or hanging on the walls. But if you had watched my video where I had the kind of really poor quality, exploration of the metaverse, I managed to climb onto the roof by forming a ladder with people. So I managed to climb on people's shoulders, and then they climbed on your shoulders, and you would climb on their shoulders. Eventually, you would get to the top, and then you could jump off the map onto kind of the outside bit as shown here. And you guys can see it's pretty hilarious. These decapitated animal trophies are essentially just actual animal models, and they've shoved them through the wall. Yeah, that is pretty janky. So yeah, I just don't know what to say. I think when the VeVeVerse comes out, it's definitely not going to be anything like this. It's going to be far superior quality. I'm not sure exactly. I guess they were trying to cut corners here, and this is kind of what we got. Now, kind of just touching on the point of the really cheap gems going on in the community. So I've been seeing people selling gems as cheap as 0.5 it's like half a dollar for one gem, so 50 cents for a gem, which is extremely low. The rates before we were going for like 0.8 dollars for a gem. So why is that happening? Well, firstly, the obvious answer is they're just scamming. They have their own fake escrow, fake admin person who kind of mimics the real one. They're selling these really cheap gems to entice users so they can just rip them off. That's one explanation. The second one, and this is kind of like the bigger one, is if I just go straight into this article. So before I start this isn't FUD or anything specifically to do with VeVe. This isn't a VeVe specific problem. This has been going on for a long time, just on mobile apps in general for a while. But it's something everyone needs to be kind of aware of and prepared for. So a lot of people, if we have a look here, crooks use mobile games to launder money from stolen credit cards. It's published a few years back, just so you guys are aware. This problem isn't a new one; it's been going on for a while. So, what's been happening, and people in the community are starting to become a little bit more aware of this. Is there are people who use stolen credit cards, and because VeVe, at present it lacks the kind of KYC needed to get signed up. There's no KYC needed in order to purchase gems through there. People are using stolen credit cards to buy gems, and then when they buy those gems, they resell them straight away at a discounted rate, just so someone will buy them ASAP, and they can just continue offloading that way. What happened here was they were buying, as they described, virtual goods. They would pay for these stolen credit cards, pay using these stolen credit cards for these virtual goods via their Apple Pay or Google Pay or whatever, and then they would resell the virtual goods on a third-party website. So if we imagine here, the VeVe Collectibles group, people are selling gems there. That would in this case be the third-party site, and they are buying these gems using stolen credit cards. Now, The question is, what could happen? Who is liable here? So a lot of these victims of fraud, what they'll do is they'll get their bank to do a chargeback and reclaim the money. Now, the bank would probably get the money back off the merchant. But in this case, who's the merchant? Would it be VeVe, or would the merchant be, Google or Apple, since you are buying it through their app stores, and they are the ones charging you a, exorbitant fee as well. It's like 30% fee for App Store. So I believe it would be the store in this case, so the App Store or Google Play Store. However, I believe that, it's not as simple as that. There is also an insurance provider that they'll go through to kind of reclaim these losses. So it can become a bit more complicated. Now, if it were kind of being reclaimed through VeVe, then I'm not sure exactly what would happen. Would they kind of, give up their own kind of internal funds, just like they did through, compensating those who are victims of scams? They would have like a fund set aside, just to accommodate for this kind of thing. Or, would they have to pay for it, reclaim it off insurance, and then investigate accounts involved in this kind of, stolen gems? And I do know a lot of people who are accumulating gems just to sell once we get the money transmitter license, just because, if you buy gems cheap now and you sell on the money transmitter license announcement when that's out, then you can just sell those gems at a profit. So yeah, it makes sense to accumulate cheap gems, but then if you're constantly buying gems for, a discounted price from people who are selling it, having used stolen credit cards, then your account looks like it's linked to this kind of money laundering, and that can put you at risk. We know some people have had accounts disabled for constantly buying or being involved in stolen collectibles. It comes across that this account might be involved in laundering stolen collectibles, but they're just an innocent person trying to purchase cheap collectibles. So in this case, yes, maybe the account gets disabled for investigations and gets re-enabled, and that's kind of what I've seen. A lot of people did get their accounts re-enabled if they had kind of shown their innocence. But the point is, a lot of people don't want to go through the hassle of having their account disabled and then having to prove their innocence. They just don't want to they just don't have the time to deal with that, and it may affect opportunities as well. They may miss out a drop because their account was disabled during that period. So yeah, something to be aware of. Watch out for these people selling really, really cheap gems. If you do want to kind of go down that route of buying gems, buy off people who have a track record of, being legit sellers. They haven't just appeared out of nowhere, and usually they will have higher rates. But, if you do want to go down that route, it's better to pay the higher rates and be safe than, going through these guys who are selling at really, really cheap gems. Because if they aren't scammers, they may be, money launderers in this case. Because it does happen. It's been happening for a long time on mobile apps. It's not a VeVe specific problem. It is just general mobile apps that provide, the option to buy virtual goods. They attract these kind of people. But it can be argued KYC can help reduce this. But VeVe, they've kind of been outspoken, and they don't really want to go through that KYC route of getting signed up. They may be KYC introduced in other aspects. But for now, they don't want it, just because it may be a barrier of entry to new users, and they kind of want to avoid that. Now, what I did want to touch on is the Tom Bilyeu thing. So Tom Bilyeu, for those who don't know, he has a NFT company himself. They sell, like NFT, they do collabs as well. They've got a kind of Steve Aoki one coming like around right now. And yeah, he's been quite outspoken about VeVe, especially recently, and he actually retweeted this. So Tom Bilyeu, he actually wanted to see people's VeVe showrooms, and he's quite interested in VeVe. He says, flash forward 5 years and these showrooms are going to melt people's brains. They already show true artistry in the staging alone. Thanks to everyone who shared their setup with me. So he asked people to kind of share their VeVe showroom setups with him, and a lot of people did. Some people actually asked them for him to share his VeVe showroom setup with them, which I found was quite funny. But Tom Bilyeu, he's not a small player in this space. If you have a look at his YouTube, I believe he does have over 1 million subscribers, so he's definitely got, you know, influencer status. But the fact that a competitor of VeVe, someone who's a competitor in the NFT space, is actually outspoken in a positive way about VeVe, then that just goes to show that they're doing something really, really well. If they could get more players like this in the NFT space to kind of, you know, genuinely be interested in their product, then that's just validation of their product. More validation, the more users are going to get onboarded over time. That's just how it works. So I think that's pretty cool. And, you know, shout out to Tom Bilyeu, who has been sharing some kind of really, really good thoughts around VeVe in general. So lastly, what I wanted to touch on was the price of OMI for today. So we had kind of this downward trend, just based around all of the FUD going around with the founder tokens unlocking again. You know, I don't know why. This public information that's been there for ages. There are going to be more token unlocks, but people just, you know, there are certain people in the community just promoting FUD to get the price down so they can fill up their own bags. That is just how it is. Now, we know that there has been manipulation with a specific whale, and I suspect that with the MTL news, the Metaverse news coming up, new exchanges, he is going to be continuing to sell. That's just going to suppress the price. So I believe that, you know, that compounded with other people who don't know any better, they just follow the crowd, we may see a come down of price back down to this area support here, this 0.2 cent region. Now, I'm perfectly fine with that, but for most people, they will panic and they'll freak out without realizing what's going on. So my advice is, well, what I'm doing is I'm just dollar cost averaging. Pretty simple. So I had a pending buy, say here, at 0.23, and I triggered that. So I have more OMI now, but I'm also going to be setting a pending buy here at 0.2 cents. Will it hit there? Who knows? If it does, good. If it doesn't, doesn't matter. But just for transparency's sake, I think, you know, it's just good for me to share with you guys where it is that I'm buying OMI. But okay, I've got hiccups now for talking too much. But I think in the long term, none of this is really going to matter. OMI is going to be hitting that 5 cent, 10 cent mark. It's just when these individual whales kind of lose their influence, and that's going to happen when more users come on board, because we have more exchanges, more liquidity. MTL allows more mainstream users to kind of access the app as well. So yeah, in the long term, people don't need to worry, but in the short term, just be aware of kind of like the situation that's going on. Don't, you know, panic sell. Just what I'm doing is buying the dip and lowering my average price. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I had to go through with you guys today. Thanks so much for watching. Please do like, subscribe, support the content, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.